couple of weeks where we're going to see a lot of alumni kind of showing up, popping in. So you should make it your business to go over to them, pick their brains. They have a lot of wisdom to share, I think. The original question here, I'm going to try also at the end to support my Chaver of Noam in his battle against the Nebuch, the Briskers, who dare to disturb. Although I have to say that Rav Blau said yesterday he actually agrees with David.
No, about Tanakh.
About Tanakh, yeah. Anyway, so the original question was, what does Torah mean to me? Right? So it's very hard to do this without the context of a wider picture. I always think of the mission at the beginning of Pirkei Avos, which is that the world stands on three things. Right? Al Torah, Al Avodah, Milut Chasadim. And one of those pieces, Torah, Avodah, and Milut Chasad, we don't have time to get to all three of them, doesn't really exist without living in synergy and in the context of the others. The ultimate question the person asks himself, by the way, if anything I'm saying here is a chiddush to anybody, then you haven't been listening. Because my understanding of this question is that we're supposed to share a little bit of the Weltanschauung of how we look at the world and how Torah is a prism for us, for everything. And so if you haven't been hearing this from me for the last couple of months, or from us, then we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. But maybe this is a way of putting it into bullet points. So the ultimate question to me is, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want? Right? Hashem created us, Hashem put us here for a reason. We have to try to discern what that reason is. In every moment, in every question, in everything that we do, we're trying to figure out, what does Hashem want of me? Right? The ultimate challenge, can I make the will of Hashem my will? Can I decide not just to do what Hashem wants, but can I get to the point where whatever Hashem wants is what I really want? How do I figure that out? How do I figure out what it is that Hashem wants of me? So Hashem gives us a recipe for what it is we're supposed to be doing in the Torah. And therefore, Limud Torah, at its core, is an attempt to understand the recipe of what Hashem wants of me. Now sometimes that's obvious. Right? You're studying, I don't know, the Akedah, and you're analyzing how Avraham Avinu is coming to his decision when Hashem doesn't necessarily make it so clear, and you're struggling with what Hashem really wants and how the story seems to change towards the end of the story. So that's very clearly a recipe for understanding how to deal with certain situations, among everything else. But how does that materialize in the practical realm of Torah? Right? Whether it be in a Daf Gemara or in Halacha, right? You're studying Hilchos Nida, and you're studying the Archakos of Nida, and you learn that if you put a salt shaker, right, that if the wife is in Nida, if she's in that time of the month when one doesn't have relations, you're not supposed to necessarily give her the salt shaker, you're supposed to place it on the table, and she picks it up. I remember when I was studying for Smicha, studying these Archakos, what does Allah want? That's ridiculous. What does Allah want of you? Right? So if this context is correct, then really my question when I'm studying that halacha is, what is it that Hashem wants? What are Chazal trying to tell me? And the truth is, obviously one doesn't do this when you're sitting in a public restaurant, but if you're sitting on your own, and that's an interesting halacha question. So the halacha wants to create a romantic tension in that moment. The halacha wants you to think about that. Right? And that leads you to a whole dialogue that you have with yourself, and hopefully with your significant other, as to what a relationship is meant to be and everywhere else. And you can find that within the context of any halacha, and every halacha. Right? So that's the first question. It's interesting that the Torah is compared to an Eitz Chaim, right? Eitz Chaim Nil Machzikim Ba. When we look at the beginning of the journey of mankind, so it originally says in Breshit, right? The first thing Hashem does when it comes to Adam Rishon is Vayikach Hashem Elokim et Adam, Vayinechehu b'Gan Eden L'Avdal L'Shem Ra. Hashem takes Adam and places him in Gan Eden. And one might suggest that Gan Eden is the sort of the allegorical representation of this world, and we're in this world, L'Avdal L'Shem Ra. It also says, in a different pasuk, the Eitz HaChaim, right, which also may represent Torah. Where do I find the Eitz HaChaim that I'm actually not supposed to partake of? Right? Some understand that to mean that I'm supposed to allow Torah to impact me. My job is not to change Torah. Torah is supposed to change me. Where do I find that Eitz HaChaim that we're not supposed to eat? The Eitz HaChaim, b'toch hagan, it's in the middle of the gan. If the Eitz HaChaim of Torah isn't the center of your universe, until we get to the point where Torah is not just an added subject. I remember somebody was telling me he went to Brandeis University, and he was thrilled, that he could actually take a class. And I think that's the only university in America, a secular university, where you can actually take a course and study Gemara, right? And that you get credit for that course, and you get to study Gemara. And he wanted to know what I thought of it. And don't get me wrong, it's, the worst things you could study in the context of university. I said the only thing you have to be careful of is you don't come to look at Gemara as one more course. Right? Gemara is not just a course. Gemara is the main course. It's the center. It's the entire meal, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, which is interesting, is how one views, Rav Noam was saying how this life is not supposed to be work, this life is supposed to be pleasurable, and we're supposed to enjoy this world, and that may be true. I think sometimes we do a disservice. Because, and maybe this is in modern Orthodoxy in general, maybe it comes from the context of Raida, we want to make things palatable. We want to make things enjoyable. We want that Shabbat shouldn't be work, it should be a celebration. And that's all true. But at the end of the day, you get out what you put in. And until, I remember when I was in Gush, so I was in Bikshir, with my Rebbe, first year and a half, tremendous Talmid Chacham. And it took me a long time until I really started to understand where Rav Bik was going. And I got to the point, where I finally could figure it out. He would give us a list of Makoros, and we'd be studying it, and I get to Shir, and sometimes I didn't be able to predict exactly where it was going to go. And then one day I found out they've decided that I'm switching Shir. They're putting me into, Rav Shabtai Rapport Shir, right? So I was upset. I went to talk to Rav Bik. So I feel like I'm finally getting it, and I'm really enjoying the Shir, whatever, and I finally feel comfortable in the Shir. And he was listening to me and everything I said until I said that. He said, "You feel comfortable?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Then you gotta leave." That's the kiss of death. You feel comfortable, right? There is a certain type of Torah which becomes entertainment. You don't have to do any work. You come to a shir, you listen, it's awesome. And that's good, there's a value to that. But at the end of the day, you really begin to progress when you start to sweat. When you find it difficult. When you're sitting at 10:30 at night, and officially night is over, and you're still there, and you're plugging away the Tosfos, and you just can't get it. And you don't let up, that's when Torah becomes real. So that's the second issue. Second issue is you have to get to a point where you're working at developing that relationship with Torah, right? And then lastly, I just wanted to say that, maybe two more things. One is, this keeps coming up. I've heard this come up at least 3 times in the context of these discussions. People talk about, Tikkun Olam. Noam just mentioned that. I want to make it clear. I'm not going to get into what this fully means. We can do that in the Children's Challenge tomorrow. Tikkun Olam is not the goal. I don't believe that that's the way Judaism looks at it. I don't believe that's the way Halacha looks at it. Tikkun Olam is a necessary byproduct. It's a beautiful byproduct, but it's not the goal. The goal is Kedoshim Tiyu. Right? The goal is that we're meant to become vehicles for bringing Hashem into the world. For creating a world, Kirtzon Hashem. And that very often involves and results in Tikkun Olam. You have to differentiate between those two things. Right? And lastly, I wanted to give you the 6 bullet points because what Noam was saying yesterday to me, maybe we should be sort of sharing more than just how we view Torah study, but also how Torah study impacts the way we look at the world. Right? So I think that there are 6. When I was sitting down thinking, what are the major ideas that have colored, I guess you're looking for the perspectives of each of us, so this would be me, but the first is, who am I? And what is my purpose? That's the ultimate question. If a moment in your day goes by, we've talked about some of us, that tefillah, litpalel, is all about struggling with my ratzon, struggling with what I'm looking for in the world. The Gemara says, would the person would daven all day? If I'm understanding Rav Kook correctly, then what Rav Kook suggests is that means that every moment of every day I should be struggling with what it is I'm doing here, in any given moment. Right? The second thing is that everything in my life is a message. Everything that happens, every person that comes into your path, every event that happens, sometimes it's easy. You stub your toe, you can think about what that means. Sometimes you have major events in your life. Some of them are magnificent, some of them are very challenging. But if you begin to develop sort of the ability to see the world through the prism of what does this give me as a message, what is Hashem asking of me, then it'll change the way you look at life. The third is how do we make decisions. This is a theme that comes up again and again and again and again. And so one might walk away from these dialogues and discussions. Well, how do you make a decision? You make a decision. What does the Torah say? I just got to figure out what the Torah is telling me. And that's not true. Because there are many decisions in life where the Torah does not clearly tell you what to do. Right? If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer and you're not sure which you want to be, the Torah's not going to tell you to be a doctor or a lawyer. The Torah will tell you how to behave as a doctor, it'll tell you how to behave as a lawyer. But you have to figure out what to do. So how do you make decisions? So eventually, some of us have already spoken about this, and if not, you can come over and ask me afterwards, or we can talk about it in the Children's Challenge. But ultimately, my understanding of a piece in the Evan Shlema from the Gra is that I have to at least figure out why I'm doing what it is that I'm doing. Right? When you make a decision, ask yourself, why are you making this decision? Right? If the reason for making the decision is a good reason, then the decision will work out. If it's not a good reason, if you're becoming a doctor, even if you're meant to be a doctor, but you're doing it just to make money, that's not going to work out. If you're becoming a doctor to save people's lives, you might end up making money, but that's the right reason to become a doctor. So that's the prism through that. The fourth is that people continuously ask the question of how the Torah deals sort of with the life issue of what am I meant to be doing versus the faith that inevitably has to stem from an appropriate relationship with Torah. And I think in a 10-second nutshell, we have to be doing our ishtadlus. We obviously have to do what it is that we're meant to be doing. When we're done doing everything we can do, then we have to be saying that whatever happened was meant to be. And within the tension of those two seemingly opposing ideas is what I think Judaism wants of us. The fifth thing that I wanted to suggest that you can gain from Torah study is the value of good habits. Something that you notice, and I think this, I'm willing to bet that all the other Rebbeim here would concur. One of the great challenges in this year is how to develop good habits, right? I don't know why it is that people leave 12 years of Jewish schooling and Jewish home or whatever else it is, and they get here and either they don't have good habits or their habits disappear. But I think that a disciplined relationship with learning Torah can give you a healthy set of habits. Now, some of these habits are practical, like getting up in the morning. You know, when you're 30 years old, if you can get up in the morning, you're going to have a hard time in your life. This is the year, and this is the time. But even in terms of the ability to sit, the ability to analyze, the ability not to give up until you really understand something, the ability to consider other people's contextual ideas, and so on and so forth, the series, and how I look at the world and all of these different questions, those set of healthy habits is something that you can glean from proper relationship with Torah. And the last, I guess you could take from a Rudyard Kipling poem. Rudyard Kipling has a poem called If. It's a magnificent poem. If you want to read a whole copy of it, you can look it up on the net, or I'll send you a copy. But one of the lines in that poem which very much impacted me is, if you can fill a given minute with 60 seconds of long-distance run, yours is the earth and everything in it, and you'll be a man, my son. And what that means is that we have to take every moment of life and fill it with long-distance run. And in everything that we do, whether we're in a conversation with someone, whether we're doing an act of chesed, whether we're walking to the bus, right? Watch Rav Nebenzahl. If you ever get a chance to watch Rav Nebenzahl walking in the Rova, he usually leaves Hakotel around 6-ish or so, or 6:30. It's an unbelievable thing. He's covering black Gemaras or Sidrei Mishnayos on his way home. I don't know how he doesn't trip. It's a whole different way of walking in the world. So, something to be said. So that's a little bit of food for thought on the study of Torah. I kept up my, now if anybody has questions.